You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Okay, the RTM will hold a remote meeting via Zoom on Wednesday, June 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. to consider and act upon the following matters. Item number 1, roll call. The clerk will call the roll call.
Good evening. Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman is present.
Representative Atro.
Representative Atro is present.
Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone here.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson's here.
Representative Black. Anyone see Representative Black?
Yeah.
Representative Black present.
Thank you. Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett here.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin is here.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson is present.
Thank you. Representative Erlanger. Anyone see Representative Erlanger?
Yeah, Donna, this is Tom Brockett. She's not going to be with us tonight.
Oh, thank you. Representative Flanagan.
Present.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg here.
Representative Haken.
Representative Bacon is present.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy is present.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel is present.
Representative Hines.
Hines is present.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham is present.
Representative Jackson.
Jackson's here.
Representative Leach is here. Representative Preet.
Representative Preet is here.
Representative Riccio.
Representative Riccio is present.
Representative Sember.
Representative Sember is here.
Representative Shrestha. Anyone see Representative Shrestha? No. Okay. Representative Sires.
Representative Sires present.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Somro present.
Representative Stepanik.
Stepanik here.
Representative Sullivan.
Representative Sullivan is here.
Representative Torelli. Absent. Torelli, no. Representative Toohill.
This is Representative Frank Toohill, present.
Representative Verderam.
Representative Verderam is present.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells is present.
So I have 3 absent: Representative Erlanger, Representative Shrestha, and Representative Torelli, if that is correct. Ex officios. Is Selectman Cosgrove here?
I am here.
Thank you. Thank you. Selectman Dunbar? No. Town Clerk Arpin, I know, is here. Correct?
Town Clerk Arpin is here. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else I'm missing? Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Again here. We need to add an item to the agenda tonight. I'll ask Representative Alphone to do it. And what it is, it's the reappointment of Mario Cusi to the South Central Regional Water District Representative Policy Board for another 3-year terms. It's just a reappointment. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm not quite sure if normally the RTM does not meet in July and August. So not to delay this reappointment, I will add this to the call tonight. This will be item 12. And Representative Alphone, will you make a motion, please, to add this to the call?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to approve Mario to the South Central Regional Water Authority and put that forward to the full RTM.
Representative
Petro, I'd second it.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Black with a point of order.
Yes, go ahead, Representative Black.
First, we have to add it to the agenda, as you were saying, that
Well, yeah,
by 2/3 vote.
correct.
So,
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to add this to the agenda.
Right.
And waive Rule 4.11, if that's necessary.
No, you don't, Representative Alphone, you don't need to do the 441 now. Wait till that comes.
Okay.
Wait till that comes up in the call.
that'll be next.
Got it.
All right. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM of adding this item to the call? Any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none, this item is all those in favor, I should say. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Okay, this item is added to the call. Okay, item number 2, approval of minutes of the previous meeting.
Mr. Moderator, excuse me, Representative Edelman. I believe you should ask for abstentions as well, for the record.
Oh, you're right. You are correct, Mr. Ryan. Is there any abstentions on that? Hearing none, this item is added to the call.
Representative Ingraham, I'll
Okay.
make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Representative Brockett will second that.
Motion on the floor to accept the minutes, seconded by Representative Brockett. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, the minutes are approved without exception. Moving on to item 3, receptions of communications, reports of committees and citizens petitions. I do have a few here. Let's see what I have here. I have a letter here from Mr. Wayne Cook. Dear Branford RTM, in addition to the first selectman giving away the $20 million 77-acre Tabor property to his political allies, the Branford Green Cult, there is increasing citizen concern that the large portion of that parcel is being used by the town as an illegal landfill, with waste materials of unknown origin and contact being deposited there. Although a letter has been sent to the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and the Public Health regarding this matter, it is asked that the RTM and the entire Board of Selectmen immediately investigate the dangerous situation and issue a full report to the community. Since the notified bodies have already been submitted and are submitted to the Selectmen, the RTM is not in the investigative powers. Therefore, no action on the RTM for this.
Can I speak to that briefly, please?
Oh, you may not, Mr. Cook. You can speak under other business. I have another letter here from Mr. Cook. Please be advised that as has been allowed other citizens, I will be making an appropriate 10-minute comment during other business section of the next meeting in which Zoom share screen is required. I have a question for you, Mr. Cook. What is this presentation? Is this something we have already seen already?
No, it hasn't. You saw part of it and then it was interrupted, but I think there's quite a bit that would be very interesting to the RTM and to the community. And it's my idea of how to really make these meetings not only more civil, but really how to save the town millions, if not tens of millions of dollars. And I think that's worth hearing for 10 minutes.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that, but you'll see when I comment on some of these other items. As long as you do this in a diplomatic and productive way and don't have any personal attacks in with this,
Well,
I have no problem with it.
I'm glad you mentioned
Once,
that.
listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Cook. Once you start doing political attacks, that's the end of the
No, but I'm
presentation.
glad you,
Okay?
I'm glad you,
I'm
with
going
all
to give you.
respect,
I'm going
glad
to give
you
you
mentioned
2 minutes
that.
under other business.
I'm glad you mentioned that because
Okay.
that relates to another letter that I wrote. And I would like it if you would define right now and forget about waiting for the next, public comment, what a personal attack is. I mean, I would like to know what a personal attack is. And does that mean that when we go live next September, that if I say that someone's dishonest, you're going to throw me out of the meeting with the police? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you just taking advantage of it now?
Mr. Cook, I hope that when we go live, hopefully within the next couple of months, that I don't have to do that you act in a professional manner. I have no objection to you or anybody speaking to items on the agenda in a professional way. But once you start throwing personal attacks, and I'll define what personal attacks. If you're saying they're dishonest, they're corrupt, they're crooked, that's a personal attack.
That is
RTM
absolutely not a personal attack. What political?
Okay.
That is not a personal attack.
I'm not going to get into it any further.
Here's the
That's
point.
a personal attack.
Here's the point. Even if
that's my ruling.
Hang on a second. I've got to say this. It's very important. Even if you define that as a personal attack, what kind of country do we live in if we can't call a politician dishonest without getting thrown out of a meeting? How many times do you think that it's been said in Congress and the State House and everywhere else that somebody's dishonest? You think those people are thrown out of meetings? That's what makes this a democracy. I mean, who made this rule that you can't call somebody dishonest?
I hear you, Mr. Cook, then Representative Flanagan, I hear you, but that's my ruling.
Your
Okay, when
ruling-
you give your presentation, that's it. That's it, Wayne. That's it.
Your
Moving on.
ruling is
Okay.
your ruling is bordering on communist.
Wayne, end of conversation on this, please. Okay. I don't believe I have.
Representative Flanagan, Representative Ingraham.
Yeah, Representative Ingraham, go ahead, please.
Just want to note for the secretary that Representative Brom, sorry, I don't have flash my head, just came to the meeting.
Representative Shrestha just joined? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a point of order, please? I just like a point of order. I'm hearing the moderator of the RTM tell this community that a citizen cannot call a public official dishonest without getting. Stop muting me, please, Ray. Ray,
Mr. Moderator, and this is Representative Riccio. Can I make a statement, please, or a comment?
Representative Riccio, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And this is through you to Mr. Cook. Wayne, we're all neighbors here. We all the kids go to the same schools. Some cases we go to the same churches. We go to the same restaurants. And just from a professional point of view, and trust me, from a guy who talks his, sometimes out of turn or what's on my mind, we want to have meetings here that are civil. And when you call someone crooked, call me crooked, what grounds are those? It might be your opinion. You may not, and let me just finish. You may not agree with a vote that we took or a decision that First Selectman Cosgrove made. But it's not, we're not a crook or dishonest because it's a decision that we had or a vote that we had to make. Sometimes you just don't have grounds. Lots of times you have grounds to call people dishonest or a crook. You just don't have grounds.
I always have grounds, and I would prove it if you could let me get that far. And you know something, Mr. Riccio, and I say this through the moderator. You've got.
All right. So I do have another letter here that I will, to Representative Flanagan here. I do have another letter here from Mr. Cook that I will read. Dear Branford RTM, concerned with the controversial costs and the ineffectiveness of the solar and other green energy technology, both public officials and citizens alike repeatedly asked to be kept informed of any such measures being considered by the Daniel Cosgrove Animal Shelter expansion. As it turned out, however, such concerns were entirely ignored, and not only was Branford's Bias Clean Energy Ad Hoc Committee aka Green Cult, given full control of this aspect of the project, but no information was ever shared publicly regarding the actions they were taking with the project team behind closed doors to ensure the new animal shelter would be entirely green. Now that the costs of the project have exceeded the initial $2,850,000 budgeted by the $1,700,000, several FOI requests have been submitted to the town hall to be more fully ascertain the scope of such background measures, including an accurate accounting of all project costs and explanations of the overrun. Why the building was designed with controversial energy measures without any public input, who authorized the move from the current animal shelter to the Canoe Brook building, and the costs involved, and any other aspects of the project by the Green Cult of others that were intentionally withheld from the public. Although I am strongly in support of the animal shelter expansion in it, and I've repeatedly spoken to it from favor publicly, it is now asked that until such FOI information and the full financial accounting is presented to the public and carefully examined by the Branford RTM, that no further funds be allocated by the body and this increasingly problematic project be put on hold. Due to the fact that the Board of Finance has tabled this item, and hopefully they'll reconvene and take this item up, my intention at that point for the RTM is probably to send it off to two committees, Public Services and Ways and Means, if and when the Board of Finance does take this item up again. Therefore, at this point, at this time, there is no action by the RTM on this.
Can I speak to Mr. Ricchio's accusations, please?
No, we're not getting into this now, Wayne.
Well,
okay, you want to talk? Let's talk under other business, Wayne. Okay, I'm giving you the opportunity. Okay, so, and I believe that is all the correspondence I've had. There was another one piece that we've had for several months, where Mr. Cook wants me to read quotes from George Washington, Homer, and Oliver Wendell Holmes, and everything. And as I stated last month, I'm not going to.
Well, I'll read them. You want me to read them? I mean, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of reading quotations from our founding fathers.
Okay, I don't have anything else. Does the clerk have any other correspondence?
Why won't you read that letter? I would really like to know why you won't read that letter. There are quotes from our founding fathers. Why won't you read that?
Mr. Cook, you're out of order right now.
I'm not out of order.
Donna, you have any other correspondence, Donna? Donna, you need to unmute.
Oh, sorry. I do not have any other correspondence. Thank you.
Can I ask Representative Leach to read that letter? She's the clerk.
No, you may not. Moving on to item 4, to consider and if appropriate, create a blight ordinance from the town of Branford. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rules and Ordinances has had several meetings of the full committee of this since April. Ultimately, June 2nd, we had a draft with comments from the town attorney. He'd reviewed the ordinance, felt it was appropriate, had a few small changes, which we considered and adopted those we felt necessary. None of them were felt necessary by the town attorney. The final version of that was added to this agenda and published and sent to every member of the RTM. And the committee voted 5-0-1, one abstention, that was me, in favor of adoption of this blight ordinance. There was one member of the committee absent. So on behalf of the committee, I put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, a motion on the floor by Representative Flanagan. A motion on the floor, Representative Black, to approve a blight ordinance. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
And Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett.
Go ahead, Representative Brockett.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and through you and to Chairman Black and the Rules and Ordinance Committee, and specifically Representative Henschel, Representative Edelman, and Representative Toohill. I want to personally thank you for all of your hard work and diligence with putting this ordinance together. I know from reading all of the documents along the way that it took an extraordinary amount of time. It's really appreciated. And again, thank you so much for putting this all together. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, Representative Flanagan, again, any other members of the RTM wishing to speak to this item?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Preet.
Representative Preet, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Preet. I'd just like to echo Representative Brockett's comments. I think Representative Black and his committee did an extraordinary job. I know this was a long process, and I appreciate all the hard work that they put into it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Representative Preet. Representative Flanagan again. Anybody else from the RTM wishing to speak?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel, go ahead.
Yes, if it's okay with you, I would like to just read the mission statement that was written as a preamble to that. It's very short.
Representative Flanagan, go ahead, Representative Henschel.
Okay. The mission of the ordinance drafting subcommittee has been to generate an ordinance for Branford similar to most other towns and cities that would fill an administrative void by establishing protections other ordinances and regulations do not provide. Understanding that the causes of blight can be complicated, the drafting committee recognized that flexibility is desirable in addressing this issue. The primary economic focus is for the town to prevent a reduction of property values as a result of neighboring blight while keeping the cost to do so minimal. And that was the preamble mission statement to that document. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Henschel. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak?
Representative Flanagan, Representative Black.
Go ahead, Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just, I've historically been opposed to blight ordinances. I definitely appreciate the drafting group's desire to put a kinder, gentler version forward. Ultimately, I am going to oppose this. I am afraid of the impact on our town's most vulnerable citizens. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan, thank you, Representative Black. Anyone else from the RTM?
Mr. Chair, this is Lisa Arpin. Tracy Everson has her hand up to speak. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Everson, go ahead and speak.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Everson. I would also like to echo the comments of Representative Brockett, and I know how hard everyone involved worked on this. And I do think that there are protections in this for our most vulnerable. And it doesn't go to penalizing someone immediately. It goes to trying to find a solution. And I think that finding a solution or common ground is good for the town of Branford. I do have a question through you, Mr. Moderator. The zoning enforcement officer, who is that and how long have they been employed by the town?
Representative Flanagan here. That's a good question. I'm not, does the town clerk know who the zoning enforcement officer is?
So his name escapes me. Jamie, you can probably help me out. This is Lisa Arpin. Go ahead, Jamie.
The CEO position is currently vacant. However, there is an offer to be filled. Is being filled by a part-time employee right now, Don Rosowski.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, thank you, Mr. Cosgrove. That would be my concern, that there currently isn't someone in this position, and they would be tasked with learning all of the other work that they do for the town in addition to this. So I would hope that there would be some oversight or maybe a gentle launch of this blight ordinance should it pass. Thank you.
Moderator, this is Representative Toohill.
Representative Flanagan, go ahead. Representative Toohill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, that was a good comment, Tracy. No, I mean, that's exactly right. It's going to be eased into the town. I mean, for example, at the very end of the ordinance, it does state that this ordinance, after being passed, that the ordinance will start on the first of the year. So, I mean, they can learn this, okay, thank you. Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel, go ahead and speak.
Yes, just a response, Tracy, to your question. One of the things in the ordinance, if you read it carefully, is that the person that would be assigned the task of blight prevention officer is not necessarily the zoning enforcement officer, although it might logically be the same. That allocation has been left up to the first selectman to determine who might be best suited to fulfill that position.
Okay.
Like to speak again, Mr. Moderator? This is Representative Toohill.
Representative Toohill, go ahead.
Yes, thanks again for letting me speak again. And just wanted to add some comments to what we just heard from Representative Henschel. Yeah, I mean, from the towns that we did talk to, and we talked to quite a few towns, usually it is the zoning enforcement officer. They also work on blight. But, I mean, we'll have to see what happens here. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Representative Flanagan. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak to this item?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Conklin.
Okay, Representative Conklin, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I too would like to congratulate those who crafted this zoning ordinance. I think it was well thought out and well done. However, I will vote against the blight ordinance. I can't even remember how long ago this started, but I came to your first meeting, made a couple of comments against the blight ordinance and told you I wouldn't come to every meeting so that you wouldn't be peppered with my same arguments, but they stay the same. I have experience enforcing blight ordinance. None of it was very good experience. I'm afraid that the blight in general can be pretty subjective. I think I grew up in a blighted house, and so therefore I'm a little more sensitive to it. So anyway, I think it's the term itself is subjective enough that we will be pitting neighbor against neighbor more than anything else. I fully expect it will pass this evening, and I'm happy to take my loss, but I will vote against this ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman, go ahead.
Just a couple of points from in response to some prior comments. The committee took great pains to consider those that were less fortunate or had some mental health issues or other reasons that may prevent them from rectifying a blight situation. And we called it special considerations. And we think we were very sensitive to that point. With respect to Representative Cochran's comments, which I appreciate and respect, we also took great pains in our definitions, not only for blight itself, but for the surrounding, the accompanying words of this ordinance, that we think we have narrowed the scope as much as possible to eliminate the use of discretion in a negative way to set up the situation, shall I say, for neighbor versus neighbor. We also, I would point out, the committee really reached out to an enormous amount of people throughout the town, including the first selectmen, department heads, zoning officials from other towns, and individuals that other town representatives and people wanted us to reach out to get their input. And I think that we assimilated most of the concerns from everybody that we heard in one way or another to come up with the final version that came out of Rules and Ordinances with the 5-0-1 vote. So I would urge everybody to support this. I think it's good for the town. I think it will maintain the property value of the town, which will far offset any minor financial increments that will be undertaken for the enforcement. And I thank you for your time.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak to this item?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
This is Lisa Arpin. Tricia Anderson has a hand up. Thank you.
Representative Anderson, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, I was a part of this ordinance being developed, and the creators took every pains imaginable to put forth a plan to help citizens, not pit them against each other. I see this as a opportunity to help one another as opposed to hurt each other. I will be fully supporting this ordinance. I think it has a great design, and I think it is the best thing for the town for what we need right now.
Thank you, Representative Anderson. Anyone else in the RTM?
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham, go ahead.
Thank you. Representative Ingraham. I'm in full support of us approving this ordinance. I wasn't the last time it came through. Some of my comments or worries, lined up with Representative Conklin's. I think, I hope that those items are covered. This is a very, very thoughtful ordinance that's been put together. Thoughtful in the people that put it together and really worked on it, but also thoughtful thinking about Branford citizens. So thank you all, and again, I'll be voting in favor.
Okay, Representative Flanagan here. Anyone else from the RTM?
Moderator, Mr. Moderator, this is Mark Riccio.
Representative Riccio, go ahead.
First, I'd like to also thank this committee for putting this information together, and I know you all worked pretty hard on it. And we tried to pass something like this a few years ago. So I'm happy to see this, but this is probably not the right time to ask this question. We can talk about this in other business, but I thought it might be a good idea to mention it now, and then we can continue this conversation later. And I don't know much about this topic that I'm going to talk about. I've heard through the grapevine by actually employees that work for the town that someone has come up with the idea of putting together buckets or table scraps. Now, I don't know much about this. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there's something going on where citizens can place their table scraps in public locations.
So, Representative Riccio, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. Is this pertaining to the blight ordinance?
Well, I'm just saying, here we are, we've spent all these years putting together a blight ordinance, and now we're going to put out table scrap buckets.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Henschel.
Yeah, Representative Henschel, go ahead.
Yeah, Mark, just to clarify, and I think we should be talking about this later in the meeting if it's appropriate, but that program is a program it's put on by a company up in Hartford that actually collects your waste scraps. I am a participant of it. You actually pay. In our case, we pay to do that. And just like the trash we put out, once a week, we put out a very carefully closed bucket that has those scraps. A company comes by and picks them up, takes them up to Hartford, and they are turned into energy and compost, I believe. But it's not like somebody's just putting garbage out on the street. It's a totally separate program. But we probably ought to talk about that in another portion of the meeting.
And Representative Henschel, thank you for clarifying a little bit about it, because as I said, I wasn't sure if this was the right time to bring it up, but I figured let me bring it up because here we are, we're trying to fix blight, but then we're going to put these buckets out here, and I don't know anything about it. So I apologize for maybe redirecting the dialogue, but we can take that up on other business at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Riccio. Anyone else to speak to this ordinance?
Representative Wells has his hand up.
Representative Wells?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Wells. I was on this committee, not the committee that drafted it, but the committee that discussed it, and I was fully supportive of this. up until the very end. And I believe one of the concerns, well, in fact, my sole concern, Representative Conklin kind of got onto it. When we got into one of our meetings, one of our final meetings, at the very end of the discussion, we had people from the public speak who were complaining about how long a boat could be, and they have a neighbor whose boat they think is 2 or 3 feet too long. Then we even had an RTM member, not a member of the committee, but another RTM member who complained about a car parked on the street in front of someone's house for an inordinate amount of time and said that that could be considered blight, which a public parking area and a car fully registered in no way can be construed as that. And so just in the several weeks between crafting the ordinance and getting to recommending the ordinance, we've already started seeing people pick at people and picking at neighbors and things. And I'm just afraid this is going to lead into more trouble. I think it was summed up nicely when he said neighbor versus neighbor. And so although I was fully supportive up until the very end, in fact, voted for it until the last meeting, I will be voting against it tonight. Thank you.
And thank you, Representative Wells. Anybody else from the RTM wishing to speak?
Mr. Moderator, it's Representative Edelman, if I could be heard again through you.
Go ahead, Representative.
So my reflection of that meeting that Representative Wells just talked about was talking in the hypothetical, there was a car and just having discourse about whether or not it could be considered blight in the scheme of discussing the ordinance. But I would simply point out that with respect to this issue for neighbor versus neighbor, having a lawful process and some boundaries of how to resolve those disputes between neighbors might certainly be in the town's best interest rather than having neighbors want to take things in their own hands, for lack of better terminology. At least there would be a lawful, orderly process that neighbors could seek relief from if they deem necessary rather than going rogue. Thank you.
Hey, Representative Flanagan here. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak? Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this?
Representative Black has his hand up, and then Mr. Cook.
Oh, okay. Representative Black, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think that, as far as the neighbor versus neighbor, I think the draft that we have does try to eliminate a lot of those picayune complaints, and they would not be subject. I mean, that's one reason I was abstaining. As I said, it's a kinder, gentler. I looked through the special considerations. I appreciate the effort. It didn't go far enough for me. The other thing I'd just like to mention as far as effectiveness, the effective date is the 1st of next year, and there is a remote possibility that's never happened that happens with every ordinance, that there might be a referendum on this petition from electors. Thank you.
Senator Flanagan here. Mr. Cook, you wishing to speak to this? Go ahead.
And just briefly, I just want to say that this is one of those items that's almost tailor-made for the RTM. You spend a half an hour talking about it. You spend literally years working on it. But the big issues, the tens of millions of dollars of issues, and this isn't personal, this is a general comment, Mr. Moderator, but, the dishonesty and the corruption in town, you let that go. That's not your purview. But you'll spend forever on something like this, and you'll spend forever on a $5 transfer because it makes you seem like you're doing something. But the truth of the matter is, and this is all I'm going to say, and I'll have plenty to say as the meeting goes on, you're not doing anything. I mean, you may think this is some great accomplishment, but this could have been done in a couple of months. This isn't that big a deal. You want to do something hard. Handle the dishonesty, the general dishonesty, if you want me to say it, even though it is undertaken by individuals. Handle the tens of millions of dollars that you let go in this town. And don't say it's not your purview, because it is your purview. Everything is the town meeting purview.
Okay, anyone else from the public wishing to speak to this? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed? The clerk will call the roll on this, please.
Okay. This is Representative Leach. Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman votes yes.
Representative Atro.
Representative Atro votes yes.
Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Black.
Representative Black votes no.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett votes yes.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin votes no.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson votes yes.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken.
Representative Haken votes yes.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy votes yes.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel votes yes.
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines votes yes.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham votes yes.
Representative Jackson.
Representative Jackson votes yes.
Representative Leach votes yes. Representative Preet.
Representative Preet votes yes.
Representative Riccio.
Representative Riccio votes yes.
Representative Sember.
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Shrestha.
Representative Shrestha votes yes.
Representative Sires.
Representative Sires votes yes.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Sumro votes yes.
Representative Stepanek.
Panic votes yes.
Representative Sullivan.
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Toohill.
Representative Toohill also votes yes.
Representative Verderame.
Representative Verderame votes yes.
And Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes no.
No. 1, 2. So I have 3 no votes. $24 yes.
Thank you, Representative Leach. The ordinance passes. Moving on to item 5, letters and petitions, R&O letter requests to review the Code of Ethics. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We met on this May 18th and voted to re-refer this matter. So I'll make, on behalf of the committee, make a motion to re-refer this item.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to re-refer this item. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from members of the public?
Have Mr. Cook's hands up.
Okay, Mr. Cook, go ahead.
Since this was my letter, I have a couple comments to make. Very interesting to go in on this meeting. I came in a little bit late, and the discussion when I walked in was, you know, we want to table this, but we better not, because the public's going to think that we don't care about ethics if we do. Well, I got news for you folks, and I'm being straight when I say this. The public knows exactly where this RTM is on ethics. They've been watching you for the last year or so. They've been watching Representative Ingraham up there with his finger on the button, muting people. They've been watching everything you've done that's unethical, taking extremely important issues of this town and pawning them off to the first selectman and anyone else so that you don't have to deal with them. So let's not make any mistake at all about, you know, the way that this RTM feels about ethics. And I want to say something directly to Representative Riccio, which I think falls underneath this category. And again, I think I have a right to do it because he addressed it to me. He's got a lot of nerve, and I mean a lot of nerve, saying to me, you know, Wayne, we're all neighbors. You know, I don't want to remind everybody that it wasn't long ago, a few days ago, in fact, that Mr. Riccio got on public access, whatever, and he went after Representative Comey because she had that problem up in Hartford. Okay? Now, okay, if we're all neighbors, then why did he do that? Now, when the commentator, who I have no use for anyhow, came back at Mr. Riccio, what did Mr. Riccio do? He accuses the commentator.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
No, I want to say this. This is important.
This, Mr. Cook, this is not relevant to the.
Relevant. This is relevant.
You're talking about something that is not be talked about from the RTM. Okay.
This is ethics.
Okay.
Ethics.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to this item?
We have Mr. Petrowski. You also have Representative Black's hands up also.
Okay, we'll grab Mr. Petrowski. Go ahead.
I want to speak to this. I have a right to speak to this. Why don't?
Mr. Petrowski, go ahead.
I'm talking about.
Thank you. I think this is something that needs to be addressed as far as getting something in order for the town. And I mean, if you look at the actual, and I hope this doesn't fall under the personal attack, this is just being honest. But I mean, if you look at the actual Board of Ethics itself, I mean, you have a member on there, Bill Donnarumma, who was out committing larceny, stealing signs, and there's pictures of it. He admitted to it. I mean, that's where it starts. And it trickles on down to, and I said this before, with the majority leader forging signatures, admits to it.
Moderator, point of order.
Representative Ingraham.
The speaker is being derogatory toward members of the public.
So it's about you, Ray. It's about you forging signatures. It's about you.
Mr. Cook, please, let's go. Anyone else talking about this item to be for a re-referral?
I have to more say.
Mr. Cook, is it pertaining to the ethics, and we're not going to get onto this Robin Comey thing again? Okay, go ahead.
Of ethics, and Ray keeps muting me. And right there, it's unethical. Why don't you take his finger off the button? You know, I'd like to see what he does in September. Good luck in September, Ray. You're not going to be so powerful then. I'll tell you that right now. Because, you know, the reason he wants these things shut up is because it deals with him. He had no problem when we were calling DeRoss dishonest. You know.
All right. Let's.
Mr. Moderator, Peter Black has his hand up. This is our finish.
Yeah, but you know, you're just a bunch of hypocrites. You're
Representative Black, go ahead and speak to this, please.
Thank you. This is really a point of order as parliamentarian that we've adopted Robert's rules. Robert's rules call for everyone, members and non-members, to speak to the subject at hand, say whether you're for or against a particular motion. The motion on the floor right now is to re-refer, and not to engage in any back and forth with other members, and they should not be mentioning other members by name. They should just be speaking to the issue, to the subject. So that's just a reminder as parliamentarians to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, may I finish now? I was muted and my rights were violated once again.
All right, Representative Flanagan, go ahead, Mr. Petrowski.
No, I understand this is a sore subject, but we're trying to get to the point of why the Board of Ethics is needed in this town to stop what's going on here. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, you could go down the list more and more to how these town boards operate. Now, I'll use, for instance, we're all familiar with Parkside. The Housing Authority, that was a board that wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, if that's politically correct. And that went on for 5 years. No one intervened. And you could go down the list to everything involved with what's been happening here. I mean, and Mr. Cook is trying to make a point, and so do I, and we get muted. I mean, you guys are public figures, and if you shouldn't do the crime if you don't want to hear about it. I mean, forgery to me is a big deal. I mean, what if Mr. Moderator, what if I signed your name to a letter and sent it to Hartford? What would you think? Would you be a little upset?
Well,
I mean, I think that's, you know, I mean,
are you speaking against or for the re-referral?
I think that you guys should come up with some proper ethics or make a board to police the rest of the boards in town, because quite frankly, they're all running amok. I mean, even here on this RTM, you have members that have been sitting here for 2 years on this board that only say present during roll call and say yes or no during a vote and won't speak to anything. I mean, what's the point of even being on the board?
Well, Mr. Petrosky, I can't control that. But are
I
you?
know you can't. You're doing a good job. I get all that. But the bottom line is, when it goes on, and something should be said. And every time someone says something, it's, oh, you're the bad apple in town because you're exposing the truth. And here's the one that's going to sting everybody. And what you should think about this with ethics. Start with this with the top. The first selectman goes and appoints a known predator as the town attorney who can't win a case.
All right,
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Petrosky.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Preet.
Representative Preet, go ahead.
Mr. Moderator, our parliamentarian just made a statement as to how we should be conducting our meetings, and we follow Robert's Rules of Order. We should be speaking to whether you agree with re-referring or not re-referring this item. We just spent 10 minutes hearing public disparage members of the RTM and the public. That has nothing to do with whether they agree with re-referring this item. Please let's stick to our Robert's Rules of Order and conduct the RTM meeting accordingly. Thank you.
I agree. Representative Preet, I agree. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to this?
Comment, please.
No, you've already spoken to this.
No, everybody else speaks to you.
No, you're done on this. Okay. Anybody else who hasn't spoken on this?
Mr. Moderator, Peter Black has his hand up. This is Lisa Arpin.
That's like his third time.
Representative Preet said what I was going to say, so.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
All right. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
I'd like to speak to the
motion. No, you're done, Wayne. Motion on the floor is a re-referral. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions?
Ray, good luck in September.
This item is re-referred. Item 6, to consider inappropriate, create an ordinance pertaining to unused capital funds. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, along with the blight ordinance, Rules and Ordinance has been considering a draft of this ordinance that's gone through. And we voted at this point to ask that this matter be re-referred. So I put that in the form of a motion.
Representative Flanagan, the motion on the floor to re-refer this item. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any discussion from members of the public?
Mr. Cook has his hand up.
Mr. Cook.
I'd like to comment on this item.
Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
I'm being muted. I didn't even say 5 words.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
Here's what I'd like to say. As far as these unused capital funds, that's fine. I think that they have a certain amount of time they should be available, and that's it, whatever. But why don't you look at the $100 million you have out there in special funds that you don't care anything about? And to me, that's directly related to this. And I won't spend a lot of time on this, but once again, it just speaks to overall hypocrisy of this RTM thinking you're doing this one little thing. But what about the big stuff? What about the $100 million that's sticking out there? And I'll let it go at that right here.
Okay. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to this? Hearing none. Is there any no votes for re-referral? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? This item is re-referred. Moving on to item 7, to consider and if appropriate, approve the appointment of Judith Amore to fill a vacancy left by Arthur Pappas to the Greater New Haven Transit District, term to expire December 31st, 2023. Representative Alphone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Admin Services heard this item at our June 2nd meeting. Judith has been selected by the Greater New Haven Transit District. She has a very qualified resume that has been sent out to the full RTM. Some of those qualifications include manager of the town of North Branford Senior Center, senior volunteer program director for Agency of Aging of South Central Connecticut, and program director of elderly housing management. This passed in committee with a 5-0 vote and 2 abstentions. And I'd put that forward to the full RTM.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve this appointment. Any discussion from members of the RTM?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Everson.
Representative Everson, go ahead.
I sit on admin services, and at the time that this came on our agenda, we did not have the resume, and the first selectman could not provide any information to us about this appointment. Therefore, myself and Representative Edelman abstained. Now that the resume has been shared, which shows that this candidate is qualified to fulfill this role, I will be voting in favor of this appointment. Thank you.
Representative Flanagan, thank you, Representative Emerson. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak? Anyone from the public?
Moderator Dan Edelman has his hand up. This is Lisa.
Edelman, Representative Edelman, go ahead.
Thank you, Town Clerk, and thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yes, I just want to echo Representative Emerson's thoughts. I actually felt bad for the appointee in abstaining, but there was just nothing brought to the committee to make a vote with any basis of knowledge or to create any idea that had any foundation as to who we were voting for and why. I clearly don't believe that there was any ill will, bad faith, corruption, or any other reasons for the mishap of the resume not being in front of the committee initially. And I want to thank whomever submitted the resume to the full body. I would just hope next time when an appointment comes to our committee, or at least the committee that I sit on, that clearly we have something in front of us to make a knowledgeable vote on one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Edelman. Anyone else from the RTM wishing to speak? Anyone from the public? I'm hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? All right, this appointment has been approved. Moving on to item 8, to consider and make a recommendation to the full RTM regarding repeal of ordinances regarding bigger areas. Section 118-4, this ordinance is a duplicating of the zoning regulations regulating large animals and zoning regulations 37A-2. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rules and ordinances met on this. On April 20th, we voted to take no action on this, which means that the piggeries ordinance would remain on the books. So I put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, motion on the floor to take no action on this item. Therefore, if approved, this will remove it. Is there any discussion from members of the RTM?
Representative Ingraham, I'll second the motion.
Second the motion, okay. Any further discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from members of the public?
Mr. Cook's hands up.
Mr. Cook, go ahead.
You know, I've been a little critical of Representative Black over the last several months in regard to this particular ordinance. I'd like to make a comment. You know, I said that there were so many times that he in particular, but other RTM representatives let very big issues go, such as, you know, the Costco fraud issues, such as the Route 146 flooding issue, the Tabor property being given away, the Atlantic Wharf with Lord knows what's out there, the whole Parkside issue. In terms of his own Ways and Means Commission, you know, we don't even know what the legal fees are. We don't know what the special funds are out there. We really don't know anything. And he just let those issues go right by him, you know, time and time again. They weren't the purview of his committee. They weren't the purview of the RTM. They got shuffled off to the Board of Selectmen. But, you know, I want to say one thing in respect to Representative Black. You know, at least he cares about our pigs. You know, at least he cares about our pigs, because to me, this is legislation at its finest right here. Let the $100 million items go. Let the dishonesty and the corruption go. But, you know, watch out for the pigs in the town, because that's what the town really, really has to find important. So, you know, Representative Black, good for you. Good for you for standing up for such principle. And again, you know I'm being facetious, you know I'm being sarcastic, because once again, it's another example of you pretending you're doing something when you're letting everything big go by. Everything big go by.
Hey, anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
I just got, I got, it's not on this item, but I lost power. This is Representative Atro, and I just got back on again. I guess I wasn't missed.
Any further discussion on removing this item? Hearing none. Is there any
Mr. Moderator,
no votes?
Mr. Moderator, Lisa
Yes.
Arpin and Peter Black has his hand up. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. I
Representative Black.
want to remind you again of Robert's Rules of Orders that everyone should be addressing the issue, not other members of the RTM. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from the public?
What was I saying wrong? I was addressing the issue.
All right. Let's go before we lose our train of thought here. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, this item is removed from the call. Moving on to item 9, to consider and if appropriate, approve participating in the Neighborhood Assistance Tax Credit Program. Representative Alphone. Representative Alphone, this will be a two-phase. The first motion would be to approve the participation, and then you have to come back with another motion, which RTM members did see the applicants. We have a list of the applicants that submitted applications for this, and we have to approve that also. Representative Alphone, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The NAA tax credit program provides a tax credit to businesses that take cash investments in qualifying community programs conducted by tax-exempt or municipal agencies. The NAA tax credit program, as of the time of our June 2nd committee meeting, there was not any applicants, but since then there has been 3 applicants to apply. At our June 2nd meeting, we did approve to join in the NAA program, but we didn't actually approve the 3 applicants. So I guess to the first part of this motion, I would put it to the full RTM to approve participating in the program. And then I don't know if we need a motion motion to waive Rule 4.11 for the 3 applicants, but the 3 applicants were Connecticut Hospice, Stony Creek, Fife and Drum, and the Animal Shelter.
Representative Alphone, that is correct. Why don't you take the first step, the motion to participate first? I believe that came out of committee to approve. Is that correct?
Yes, with a 7-0 vote.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Representative Alphone to approve participating in the Neighborhood Assistance Tax Credit Program. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? The participation in the Neighborhood Tax Credit Program has been approved. Now, Representative Alphone, you need to make a motion and list the 3, I believe, participants who have applied for this.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to make a motion to approve the 3 applicants. The applicants being Connecticut Hospice, Stony Creek, Fife and Drum Corps, and the Branford Animal Shelter. I put that forward to the full RTM.
Representative Ingraham, I'll make a second to that motion.
Motion on the floor and a second by Representative Ingraham to approve the 3 applicants that Representative Alphone just stated. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Sullivan.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just want to speak to the motion on the floor to approve the 3 submittals to the Neighborhood Assistance Program. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that we only received notice of one of the applicants 30 minutes before this meeting. I don't think that's very good transparency or good government or process. I'm in favor of energy conservation programs. I am in favor of the animal shelter, but our RTM rule actually say 995 that any written document, including reports, opinions, maps, and letters to be relied upon in the full RTM vote must be distributed in written or electronic form to all RTM members at least 48 hours before the RTM vote. In this instance, it clearly was not for one of the submittals. I'm going to make a motion to divide the question. And that would be into two parts. The first part being an approval of the Connecticut Hospice application and the Stony Creek Fife and Drum Corps application, and the second part being the Branford Animal Shelter. And just as a parliamentarian point, this is a non-debatable motion. Thank you.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor by Representative Sullivan.
I will,
Is there
Mr.
any-
Moderator, this is Representative Everson. I will second that motion.
Okay, discussion on the motion? No, it's not debatable. It's not debatable. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes?
Representative Conklin votes no.
Representative Conklin votes no.
Representative Creed votes no. Alphone votes no.
Representative Wells votes no.
All right, hold on. This sounds like we're going to have a roll call vote on this. Clerk, please have a roll call vote on this.
Okay, this is Representative Leach. We are voting on Representative Sullivan's motion to divide this item. Is that correct? Into the
That is correct.
Connecticut Hospice and Stony Creek Fife and Drum. First, is that what we're doing? Or we're voting on the motion to divide it into two, correct? Okay.
Representative, we're voting on the motion to divide it to two, correct?
Okay. Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman votes yes.
Representative Atro.
Representative Atro votes yes.
Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone votes no. These applications need to be approved by June 30th. Just a quick note.
Thank you.
No debate.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes no.
Representative Black.
Representative Black votes yes.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett votes yes.
Representative Conklin, I already had you voting no, correct?
This is Representative Conklin, correct.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson votes yes.
Representative Erlanger. Oh, sorry, she's absent. Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg votes no.
Representative Haken.
Representative Haken votes no.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy votes yes.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel votes yes.
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines votes no.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham votes no.
Representative Jackson.
Jackson votes yes.
Representative Leach votes yes. Representative Preet.
Representative Preet votes no.
Representative Ricchio.
Representative Ricchio votes no.
Representative Sember.
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Shrestha.
Shrestha votes yes.
Representative Sires.
Representative Sires votes no.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Sumro votes yes.
Representative Stepanek.
Stepanek votes no.
Representative Sullivan.
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Toohill.
Representative Frank Toohill here, and I'm voting no.
Representative Verderem.
Representative Verderem votes no.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes no.
if I have it correctly, it is 14 no and 13 yes. Is that correct? 7. Yep. Okay.
The motion is defeated. Okay, so we're back to Representative Alphone, and I respect Representative Sullivan's motion on this, but unfortunately, Representative Sullivan, is the timing on this. I believe it has to be done by June 30th, and not knowing if the RTM is going to meet in the summer, I hate to jeopardize one of the applicants for not approving it. So, Representative Alphone, if I'm not mistaken, did you make a motion to approve all? What was it, 3 of them altogether?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, made a motion to approve the 3 applicants: Connecticut Hospice, Stony Creek Fife and Drum, and the Animal Shelter.
That's the motion on the floor. Any further discussion from members of the RTM?
Representative Black and Everson have their hands up.
Representative Ingram, who was that again?
Representative Black and Everson.
Okay, Representative Black, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to take into account Representative Sullivan's concerns, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rule requiring the advance notice.
Mr. Representative Ingraham, I'll second that motion.
Representative Black is at 441.
I believe we should have already moved on 4.41, and I don't have the rules in front of me because I've only got one computer tonight. But
point of order.
Rules, Representative Sullivan.
I'm sure Representative Sullivan must have the rule on. What's that rule on, Representative Sullivan?
It's Rule 995. It's actually nicknamed Frank's Rule, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
Frank's Rule.
You are correct, Representative Sullivan, and it's our rule, and we can suspend it by a 2/3 vote. So that's my motion to do that too, as well as we've also hopefully voted to suspend Rule 4.41. If not,
added to it.
Okay. Any discussion from members of the RTM on this?
Yes.
Representative Everson.
Thank you. I sit on administrative services, and the animal shelter application was not on our committee call, and we received notification of it a half hour prior to this meeting from the finance director. It is not on the legal call for this meeting. To me, that is problematic, and I would hope that other people on this body would also find that problematic in the effort to be good government and transparency. I'm not sure, maybe it was an oversight, maybe it's a last minute ad, but given the situation and the lack of facts about what is happening with the animal shelter, I'm troubled by being asked to approve this. I don't want to vote against this, but I would like to have the information in advance, the courtesy, the legal 48-hour notice that is required on our notices so that the public also knows. It seems like it's being slipped in at the last minute, which I certainly don't appreciate as someone who was elected to represent the people's interest. I don't think it's in the people's interest to have this put on the agenda a half hour via email, where I'm wondering how many other RTM members actually read Jim Finch's email. And also, we do not have the actual application to approve. All we have is the entity.
Mr. Moderator, this is...
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Who's speaking now? I couldn't hear that.
Representative Henschel was speaking. Representative Sullivan and Anderson had their hands up also.
Okay, Representative Henschel, go ahead.
Yes, just first a clarification. I thought the vote we just took was to split the discussion into 2 parts, not to not address the animal shelter portion of it. So I might have been mistaken on that score, but I'm going to definitely vote in favor of this. I think that this is a grant program. It would be a misstep not to take advantage of this in any form that helps the community. I might also point out that I know when at some point in the future we'll be discussing the animal shelter and the overages there, that the subject of the energy conservation features and what their expense would be is probably going to surface. But I would like to point out that the dollar amount added here is just about the correct dollar amount to actually fund any modifications to the specifications for that type of building to make it more energy efficient, which is down in the sort of 2% range. So I think it would be definitely wouldn't make sense to not vote to approve this participation in this grant program. We can discuss the animal shelter overage later and what's going on there, but we have nothing to lose here.
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Yeah, Representative Ingraham.
It's Representative Ingraham. The motion before us is to waive the rule to have that the information before us within 48 hours. So, discussion should be on, do we want to waive the rule so that we can get to the main motion? Thank you.
I'll give an additional point of order. This is Representative Black. This is a non-debatable motion to suspend the rules, so we should not be having any discussion on this. I did check. I know we were wandering, but just to begin with, it's a non-debatable motion. We either suspend the rule or not. Thank you.
Okay. Therefore, we will take a vote on this then. Is there any no votes on this?
This is Representative Sullivan voting no.
Representative Brockett votes no.
Representative Everson votes no.
You're going to need a level.
Representative Riccio votes no.
All right, so we'll go back. Sounds like we got a fair amount of no's. The clerk will take a roll call vote on this.
Excuse me, this is Representative Leach. May I ask for clarification on this?
Thank you.
I think I challenge anyone here tonight to try to do the minutes of this last 20 minutes of conversation. I'm with you.
Okay, Representative Black, please, would you restate your motion to suspend and give the rule item number again, please?
Thank you. My motion is to suspend the rule 9.95, and if we haven't already, also suspend rule 4.41.
So we did not vote on suspending 4.41. So can we do that both in one motion?
I'll combine that for my motion, and I think Representative Ingraham will second the vote.
I'll amend my second.
Thank you.
Representative Ingraham.
Okay, so we're voting to suspend 9.95 and 4.41.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
This will require a roll call vote.
Okay, Representative Edelman.
Representative Edelman is going to vote yes.
Representative Atro.
Representative Atro votes yes.
Representative Alphone.
Representative Alphone votes yes.
Representative Anderson.
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Black.
Representative Black votes yes.
Representative Brockett.
Representative Brockett votes no.
Representative Conklin.
Representative Conklin votes yes.
Representative Everson.
Representative Everson votes no.
Representative Greenberg.
Representative Greenberg votes yes.
Representative Haken.
Representative Haken votes yes.
I'm a yes.
Representative Healy.
Representative Healy votes yes. Thank you.
Representative Henschel.
Representative Henschel votes yes.
Representative Hines.
Representative Hines votes yes.
Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham votes yes.
Representative Jackson.
Jackson votes yes.
Representative Leach votes yes. Representative Preet.
Representative Preet votes yes.
Representative Riccio.
Representative Riccio abstains.
Representative Sember.
Representative Sember votes yes.
Representative Shrestha.
Representative Shrestha votes no.
Representative Sires.
Representative Sires votes yes.
Representative Sumro.
Representative Sumro votes no.
Representative Stepanik.
Panic votes yes.
Representative Sullivan.
This is Representative Sullivan voting no.
Representative Toohill.
This is this is Representative Frank Toohill, and I'm voting yes.
Representative Verderam.
Representative Verderam votes yes.
Representative Wells.
Representative Wells votes yes.
Okay, yes, 21 yes, and 5 no.
Okay, the motion passes. I believe now, Representative Black, we're going to need a motion to approve the 3 applicants. Is that correct?
Mr. Moderator, I'll make that.
Correct, and that's from our Representative Alphone that's on the.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Representative Alphone.
Mr. Moderator, I'll make a motion to approve the 3 applicants. Again, Connecticut Hospice, Stony Creek Fife and Drum Corps, and the Animal Shelter. I'd also like to just add that there is 0 cost to the town for participating or approving these applicants. The only benefit is to the nonprofits. I don't really see anything controversial here, and I'd recommend that the full RTM approve this to benefit these nonprofits in town. Thank you.
Thank you,
Representative Ingraham, I'll second.
Motion on the floor has been seconded. Any discussion from members of the RTM?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brackett. I have a question for Chairman Alphone.
Representative Brackett, go ahead.
Thank you. Chairman Alphone, today is June 9th. What do we do if we have additional applicants between June 9th and June 30th? As my understanding is they have till the end of June to fill out an application and submit it. So what's the procedure for those that are going to fill out an application in the next 21 days? Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Through you, Mr. Moderator.
Well,
Mr. Brockett, that's a great question. I think
the Selectman
Cosgrove has his hand up, and he might have a better answer than I do.
Mr. Cosgrove, please.
Yes, if you don't mind, I'll address that. And it's actually related to my comments that I was going to make. So after this, I'll put my hand down. To that question, the application had to be submitted to the town, to the finance director, who was appointed as the liaison for this program by the Board of Selectmen. The applications had to be submitted by June 4th, Friday, June 4th. So we received the 3 applications prior to or on June 4th. That they were then transmitted to it. I recognize the fact that the body may have not received through the finance director all 3 applications, including the animal shelter one, until this evening. However, I think that was an oversight. It was the finance director was actually out of the office until yesterday. So in discussion, realizing that these weren't certified directly, then forward that letter to Representative Alphone's point, this really is, there's no cost to the town. This enables nonprofits as well as, organizations such as municipalities receive donations through corporations that are would be tax credits for those corporations. So I would ask that you consider accepting all these. It's a benefit to these organizations that do tremendous good through our community, and it gives an opportunity for corporations to contribute directly to these organizations so they can fulfill their mission. Well, and the corporation receives a tax credit, 60% and 100% for some other measures such as energy conservation. Thank you.
Yeah, Representative, Chairman, Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brockett. Yeah, thank you for the answer, Selectman Cosgrove. I think that as far as the RTM goes, we just wasted 30 minutes because if it had been stated earlier in the meeting that the applications had to be in by June 4th, and then there was an oversight with respect to the animal shelter, we wouldn't have had to go through 4 motions to discuss why we got it a half hour before. So thank you for your response. I appreciate that.
Okay, if there's no further discussion on this, are there any? I'm sorry, Representative Sullivan?
Yes.
Go ahead, Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Where do I start? So I do just want to clarify my original motion. I know this is, but somebody had a question. So the motion to divide would have still allowed us to discuss the application by the animal shelter. So I just wanted to, I guess that's a point of information. So the motion on the floor is to approve all 3 of them. I think it's great that this is a great program for nonprofit. That's amazing. It's no taxes, no burden on our taxpayers. Also great. What bothers me is the process of not getting it. And I know we've just heard an explanation as to why. We do also have the process of a special meeting if we had to do that. I mean, it's fine to do it this way too, I guess, but it makes it feel like the RTM is just a rubber stamp and expected to approve things without reviewing documents, and that just doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth. So that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Riccio. Can I make a comment, please?
Representative Riccio, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to explain why I abstained from this vote to the people who support me. I have to second Mr. Sullivan. For 10 years, I've always been talking about the process, and I just have to be consistent. And I think, obviously, this was it was unintended, sounds like, and I believe that. And we could always make a special meeting, as Representative Sullivan did. So I was kind of on the fence as to why I wasn't sure. I wasn't really sure how to vote for this. And I really didn't fully understand the whole situation. But I think we have to be cognitive and be very careful with our process. Sometimes it can get sloppy, not on purpose, but I just think we have to be careful with the process. And I've been preaching that for over 10 years. So, I just want to be consistent, and that's the reason I abstained. I just couldn't support that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Riccio. Representative Riccio. Any further comments from the RTM or the public?
Moderator, one more comment.
Yes, Mr. Cosgrove.
Selectman Cosgrove. RTM is willing to have a special meeting. I'd be more than happy to attend another meeting. So if the body so chooses, we can have one prior to June 30th and discuss it and any other items that may come up. So put that out there.
Mr. Moderator, to my first selectman, I'd be willing to attend a special meeting as long as it didn't interfere with the golf tournament.
Okay. That's it. Any other comments from the discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion? Is it public?
You have Representative Black, then Mr. Cook, and then Mr. Nichols.
Yeah,
Okay,
Mr. Moderator. Yeah, again, as parliamentarian, there's only one item on the floor. People should not be talking about process. All of those comments were out of order. The only item on the floor now is whether you're in favor or opposed these three programs. Thank you.
We got, who was the other two, Mr. Representative Graham?
Mr. Nichols.
That was next.
Mr. Cook?
First of all, back to Representative Black. You have a perfect right to talk about the process as it relates to this item because, as Representative Sullivan said, he was disappointed with the process. So that's all the more reason not to vote for it if the process is wrong. And to get to Mr. Riccio, I won't speak directly to him, but through you, Mr. Moderator, yeah, he might have been thinking about the process 10 years ago, but he had done nothing to support it in the last 10 years. But let me say this. I'm looking at the agenda, and I don't see anything about this item on the agenda. How does a citizen know that you're even talking about this unless they're sitting here listening to you talk about it now? I mean, what kind, you say, well, we don't want the RTM to look sloppy and like we don't pay attention. You do it all the time. That's no secret. I mean, probably the sloppiest RTM I can ever remember, and I've been to a lot of them. So now you're putting on an agenda item that nobody knows about, and you're going to vote about it because, what, it's a good idea? Shouldn't even be on the agenda. Representative Sullivan is 1,000% right. You don't add an item to an agenda half an hour beforehand. What kind of nonsense is that? What respect does that give to a citizen? I still don't know what you're talking about. And I got the agenda right in front of me. That's not sloppy.
Representative Ingraham, who was the other person?
Mr. Nichols.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes, I would just like clarification on what everyone's talking about. I'm just a private citizen here, and we're talking about laws. And I mean, we need to be more open to the public and say, this is what we're voting on. This is what we're not voting on. And to be honest with you, I'm totally confused because this has been 45 minutes. The average time for anyone to take in anything is usually a half hour. Everyone's arguing on here, but no one really knows, or there's no clarification on what we're voting for or what they're not voting for. And that's going to make a big determination for me and probably other people in the public in November. So I would just like clarification on exactly what the RTM is doing and what you guys are voting on and how it's going. That's all. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nichols. So the motion on the floor is to approve Neighborhood Assistance Participation Tax Credit Program for Stony Creek, Fife and Drum, Animal Shelter, and what was the other one, Representative Alfaro?
Connecticut Hospice.
Connecticut Hospice. That's what we're voting on tonight. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Representative Black.
Representative Black.
And then Mr. Nichols has his hand up.
Hey, just for members of the public's clarification, I believe Representative Alfone addressed this earlier, but this is a program where businesses that donate to approved organizations, approved programs, can get a tax credit, a state tax credit. There's no cost to the town in this. And so we're basically giving our stamp of approval to Connecticut Hospice, to the Fife and Drum and to the Animal Shelter in terms of allowing state subsidies, donations to these organizations. So we're saying that these are good programs and worthy of state support. Thank you.
Okay, so that clarifies.
Also, just to add, Mr. Moderator, this is on the agenda, it's item number 9. We did hear this in committee to participate in the program, but again, at the time of the committee meeting, the applicants had not applied. So we just added the applicants to the agenda tonight, but this was vetted in committee already.
Correct, Representative Alfone. I think we're ready to vote on this.
Mr. Nichols and Mr.
So Nichols? You understand it now?
Yeah, I understand it, but I would like a dollar, some kind of dollar amount applied to it.
There is no dollar amount. It doesn't cost the town anything, Mr. Nichols.
It costs the town nothing.
No.
So can I put something on the agenda a half hour prior to this?
No, you can't.
Through you?
Nope.
No, I can't, but they can.
Yeah. Anyone else wishing to speak to this item now?
Yeah, Mr. Cook and First Selectman Cosgrove.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Mr. Ryder, First Selectman Cosgrove, just to.
I thought I was next.
This is direct to a comment that was made. This, as Representative Alphone said, this item is on the agenda to participate in the program. Those organizations that then requested to be part of it, that's what was came in after the committee discussed once again if the town would participate in this program. Not every municipality chooses to participate. The town of Branford goes through this every year to decide whether we're going to take this vote to participate in the program. So the item is on the agenda. There is no cost to the taxpayer on this. The amount that the organizations are looking for their programs in hope to get to as allowable for corporate contributions, which would then be applied as a tax credit for those corporations, is $150,000 for the animal shelter. I believe it's $25,000 for hospice and $15,000 for Stony Creek Fife and Drum. But again, those are not coming out of taxpayer dollars per se. Those are corporate contributions that they're seeking. Thank you.
Comment, please.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cook.
You know, I have no problem with two of the organizations. I wouldn't throw any more money at that animal shelter until we figure out what's going on over there. I think the next few months, you're going to see it's the absolute circus that's been going on over there in terms of not just the $1.7 million overrun, but the solar application, which has been done behind closed doors, the fundraising process, which is...
Stick to the motion.
What? Well, I'm speaking with. What do you think I'm speaking with, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the motion. I'm saying don't give it to the animal shelter at this point until we figure out what's going on with the animal shelter. Is that too hard for you to understand? Go watch TV. Point of the matter is I stick by that. You know, I'll give it to the other two organizations, but the animal shelter is too messy. It's too much up in flux. Normally I would be 100% giving it to them, but that process over there, to use the word process, is an absolute mess. And you're going to see what kind of mess it is when the citizens start presenting the information. Is that okay with you, Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Cook. All right. I think we're ready to vote on this thing. We spent enough time on this thing. All right. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions?
This is Representative Sullivan. I'm going to abstain.
This is Representative Everson. I'm going to abstain.
Okay, that's two.
Representative, Mr. Moderator, Representative Rick Hughes will abstain as well.
We got three so far. Okay. Therefore, the item passes. Moving on to item 10, to consider and if appropriate, approve an agreement between the town of Branford and the United Public Service Employees Union Local 424 Water Treatment Employees, July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rules and Ordinances heard this. There was a presentation by our Human Resources Director. This is a agreement reached after mediation. It's where we want to go with future agreements. This is 1 year retroactive. And the wage increases are 2.5%, 2%, and 2.25%. So our committee unanimously voted in favor of this, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, for the town clerks, Representative Conklin is leaving the meeting at this point for the record.
Thank you.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote. A yes vote is to approve the contract. A no vote, you're against.
Okay. Representative Edelman,
Representative Edelman votes yes.
Representative Atro,
Representative Atro votes yes.
Representative Alphone,
Representative Alphone votes yes.
Representative Anderson,
Representative Anderson votes yes.
Representative Black,
Representative Black votes yes.
Representative Brockett,
Representative Brockett votes yes.
Representative Conklin,
I think it was reported he left the meeting.
Representative
oh, sorry.
Yep, left the meeting.
Okay. Representative Everson,
Representative Everson votes yes.
Representative Greenberg,
Representative Greenberg, yes.
Representative Haken,
Representative Haken, yes.
Representative Healy,
Representative Healy, yes.
Representative Henschel,
Representative Henschel, yes.
Representative Hines,
Representative Hines, yes.
Representative Ingraham,
Representative Ingraham, yes.
Representative Jackson,
Jackson, yes.
Representative Leach, yes. Representative Preet,
Representative Preet votes yes.
Representative Ricchio,
Representative Ricchio votes yes.
Representative Stember,
Representative Stember votes yes.
Representative Shrestha,
Representative Shrestha votes yes.
Representative Sires,
Representative Sires, yes.
Representative Sumro,
Representative Sumro, yes.
Representative Stepanek, Representative Stepanek,
Oh, Representative Stepanek votes no.
thank you. Representative Sullivan,
This is Representative Sullivan voting yes.
Representative Toohill,
This is Representative Frank Toohill, and I'm voting yes.
Representative Verderam,
Representative Verderam votes yes.
and Representative Wells.
Representative Wells also votes yes.
We have 25 yes, 1 no.
Okay, the contract has been approved. Moving on to item 11, to consider if appropriate, approve a request from the Human Resource Director for the following fiscal 2021 budget transfers from contingency $13,345 to wages and salaries, planning and zoning, $1,402, wages and salaries, information and technology, $1,702, wages and salary, human resources, $183, wages and salaries, police, $541, wages and salaries, building, $915, wages and salaries, engineer, $879, wages and salaries, senior center, $2,956, wages and salaries, WWML, $423, accrued payroll expense, $6, accrued payroll expense, $7, accrued payroll expense, $1, accrued payroll expense, $3, accrued payroll expense, $4, accrued payroll expense, $4, accrued payroll expense, $12, accrued payroll expense, $2, transfer out animal control fund, $1,632, transfer out sewer utility fund, $321, and transfer out human services fund, $2,351. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. All these items are transfers. All of these items 11, that's what you just read, 11A, 11B, and 11C, are all contractual obligations of the town subsequent to a collective bargain agreement that we as a body approved some months ago. These are accounting adjustments to balance the books with those pay raises. And we did not meet on this with Ways and Means. They're all from contingency. And so I make a motion first to suspend Rule 4.41 so that we may hear this tonight. Thank you.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Brockett.
Okay, a motion from Representative Black and seconded by Representative Brockett to suspend Rule 441. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none. Rule 441 suspended.
I have a comment.
No debate on that.
There's no debate on this one, Mr. Cook. This is a procedure.
How can you not be debate?
No, this is procedure.
We're waiving the rule, Mr. Cook.
We're waiving the rule, Mr. Cook. There had no debate on this. Okay, so now we're back to the main. We suspended Rule 441. Representative Black, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll put in the form, I'll move at this point to approve all these transfers under item number 11. That's the ones you read off, 11A, 11B, 11C. Again, we are contractually with the resolutions accompanying all of these that are on the agenda. Again, we are contractually obligated to make these transfers. Thank you.
Representative Black, I think we should take these individually because of there's resolutions involved after some of these. So let's just do just item 11 for now.
Okay. Okay, it takes 4 times as long, but all right.
But we have to go through the right procedure on it. Okay. So that there is a motion on
item number 11.
I'll second Representative Black. This is Representative Brockett.
Okay. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from members of the public?
Mr. Cook has his hand up.
Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I remember not long ago bringing up an issue citizens did about a $6.7 million transfer that the Board of Finance made, and they didn't notify the RTM. And we made the point back then, you guys transfer items ridiculously low, and you care about those, but you don't care about $6.7 million. Well, case in point, people, you're worried about a $4 transfer, and you don't care about a $6.7 million transfer. And what's really even sadder about it is you still don't care about a $6.7 million transfer. You just bury your heads in the sand and say, well, that's what the Board of Finance is doing. It has nothing to do with us. Well, not according to the charter. I mean, the first selectman gives you some lame excuse about, well, the Board of Finance is in charge of revenues and the RTM is in charge of expenditures. I like to see that in the charter. I like to see that in the town code, because as long as I've been watching this RTM, you've been doing both. So, I mean, it's really amazing to me that you've been given one iota of consideration to a $1 transfer when you could give, quite frankly, a damn about a $6.7 million transfer. And once again, sorry to be harsh, but shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. What kind of organization is this?
Okay. Any further comment from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? The item passes. Item number 11A, corresponding animal control fund transfer resolution. Increase operating transfer in $1,632. Appropriation increase wages and salaries $1,627. And accrued payroll expense $5. Resolved that the RTM approves a transfer out of $1,632 to the Animal Control Fund to fund salary changes pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement for the town of Branford union employees. This transfer will increase the fiscal year 2021 budget in the Animal Control Fund from $367,026 to $368,658. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the RTM approve this item.
This will be 441 also, Mr. Cook. Mr. Black.
I hope my prior motion applied to all of these items. They're suspending the rules.
Okay. All right, I'll go.
I'd agree if we have to do these individually on the vote.
All right. So you're making a motion.
Anyone on the RTM that objects to the suspending the rule for all these items? Thank you.
Representative Ingraham, I'll second 11B.
Okay, motion on the floor to approve this transfer. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from members of the public?
Comment, please. You sure
Mr. Cook, this is Mr. Cook. So you know, this transfer is for strictly because of the collective bargaining. Yes, nothing to do with your and has nothing to do with your view of the animal shelter.
No, I'm not saying the animal shelter in this case. I think you should spend a lot more time, though, as a group on that $5 transfer. I really do. Because obviously that was important enough to make it to this agenda, but the $6.7 million wasn't. So, I mean, I don't know what your rationale was by putting the $5 on there, but I think we should have a pretty robust debate because clearly you found that important enough to put it there. But again, not to sound like, beat it over and over, but you didn't care about 6.7 million. You didn't care about that at all, and you still don't.
Hey, any further comment from the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? The 11A passes. Moving on to 11B, corresponding sewer utility fund transfer resolution. Appropriation increase operating transfer in $321 to appropriation increase wages and salaries $320 to accrue payroll expense $1. Resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM a transfer out of $321 to the sewer utility fund to fund salary changes pursuant to collective bargaining agreement for the town of Branford union employees. This transfer will increase the fiscal year 2021 budget in the sewer utility fund from $4,606,967 to $4,607,288. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the RTM approve these transfers in the resolution.
Is there a second?
Mr. Brockett will second that.
Okay.
Mr. Brockett can take it.
Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from members of the public?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Ricky. I do want to make a comment regarding this $321 transfer, just to demonstrate to Mr. Cook that I'm so concerned about the $321. I'm going to vote against it. Thank you.
Any discussion from members of the public?
Yeah, that didn't really make me feel a whole lot better because you still didn't care at all about the 6.7 million. You start making a comment about that, maybe you get my attention.
Okay, is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions?
Representative Ricky votes no.
Representative Ricky, one no vote. Thank you. The item passes. Item 11C, corresponding human services fund transfer and resolution. Increased operating transfer in $2,351 to appropriation increase wages and salaries $232,342 to accrue payroll expense $9. Resolved that the Board of Finance recommends to the RTM a transfer out of $2,351 to the Human Services Fund to fund salary changes pursuant to collective bargaining agreement for the town of Branford Employees Union. This transfer will increase the fiscal year 2021 budget in the Human Services Fund from $1,653,902 to $1,656,253. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that we approve these transfers in the resolution.
Representative Ingraham will second.
Representative Ingraham seconded it. Any discussion from members of the RTM? Any discussion from members of the public? Hearing none. Is there any no votes?
Mr. Cook has a hand up. Sorry.
Is there any? Mr. Cook, again? You want to talk to this?
No, that was anticipation. Let it go.
All right, back to the vote. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? Transfer passes. Item 12 would be the motion that we added earlier. The calls for the reappointment of Mario Cracuzzi and Representative Alphone. Could you please make a motion on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd make a motion. I believe we need a motion to waive Rule 4.11 first.
That is correct.
I'd make the motion to waive Rule 4.11 on this item.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Representative Black seconded. Any discussion from members? of the RTM? Hearing none?
Undebatable.
I know it's not debatable. Is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions? The item passes 441. Go ahead, Representative Alphone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
And
This Representative Black, I'll second. I think Mario is just a real wonderful asset to the town of Branford, and I very much appreciate his service in many capacities to the town. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Brock.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, for purposes of clarification, the minutes, could we have the exact name and spelling of the individual and what that individual is being appointed to so we could make sure the minutes are correct?
Yeah, I'll get that for you in 1 second.
Thank you, Representative.
Moderator, I have the spelling. This is Lisa Arpen. It's Mario Riccozzi, Riccozzi.
And the position, Lisa? This is Representative Brockett.
I do believe it's on RWA.
Regional Water Authority.
South Central Regional Water Authority. Thank you.
Yeah, Representative Brockett, is it the letter that I received from the Selectman's office was that the Board of Selectmen meeting held on May 19th, the board unanimously approved the reappointment of Mario Riccozzi to the South Central Connecticut Regional Water District Representative Policy Board for another 3-year term to expire on June 30th, 2024.
Mr. Moderator, thank you. That way we can have the minutes to have the correct information. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Everson.
Yes, Representative Everson.
This was not on the Administrative Services Committee agenda. I don't want to penalize individuals and appointments. I'm not sure if this came before the Board of Selectmen in May, how it was, maybe it was an oversight that it wasn't on our June 2nd agenda. But in the interest of good government, I would appreciate that details like this be paid more closely attention to in the future.
Thank you, Representative Everson. The reason for this was that it came after the Administrative Services meeting, and as I so stated at the beginning of the meeting, it was my recommendation that we add this to the agenda tonight. And the reason that this is a reappointment of Mario Riccozzi, who's been on for quite some time, and not sure if we're going to be meeting in July. I didn't want to penalize this individual by not reappointing him.
Mr. Moderator, just to add to that, generally things that end up on the admin services agenda are sent by the moderator. So usually it would have been sent to the committee at tonight's meeting. But as the moderator stated, we don't know if we're going to have a July meeting.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve this reappointment of Mario Riccozzi. Is there any further discussion from members of the RTM?
No hands up. Mr. Cook's
hands up. Any discussion from members of the public?
Mr. Cook's hands up.
Mr. Cook?
I was just getting mine up to the next item. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any, hearing none, is there any no votes? Is there any no votes? Is there any abstentions?
Representative Edelman is going to abstain.
Okay.
Representative Everson abstains.
Got 2 so far.
Representative Sullivan will also abstain.
Okay. Therefore, the motion passes to reappoint Mario Riccozzi. Moving on to item number 13, any other business to come before the RTM?
Mr. Moderator, this is Representative Ingraham.
Representative Ingraham, go ahead.
This is kind of late breaking. I'd like to ask the RTM to have a moment of silence for Assistant Chief Robert J. Massey Sr., who passed away this evening. The notice came out from the fire department in the middle of our meeting. Thank you.
And we have a motion of silence for that, please. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Again, item 13, any other business to come before the RTM?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. This is Representative Everson.
Go ahead.
I would just note that the Water Pollution Control Authority at its meeting yesterday has increased the sewer usage fees. So just to give town residents a heads up that when their bill comes through, and this will be publicly noticed, I would think, as the notice went out from the Water Pollution Control Authority, that the fee is now going to be $170. Thank you.
Representative Everson, what was it before? Was it 150? Is that or 100?
I believe, Mr. Moderator, it was 130.
That's correct.
So it's 170, which is quite a substantial increase. And I bring it up for one reason in particular. During the budget process, I don't have a recollection of the exact amount being discussed. I do seem to remember that there was some discussion of this. That's a substantial increase. And I would hope that we get further information as to the thinking behind that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Everson. Any other business to come before the RTM? If not,
Representative Black.
Representative Black.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, yeah, we did have a discussion of a increase during the budget process, but it was not expected to be that high. But the RTM does not have any review authority over the WPCA. That was part of the consent decree with DEEP and the EPA, is that they would be able to raise their own revenue and set their own fees. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business? And if there isn't from the RTM, I did tell Mr. Cook that I would let him speak under other business and give a presentation that is polite and to the point, and no personal attacks. Once that happens, Mr. Cook, the presentation will end. Okay. So
well, a couple things about that. Let's say that my presentation, which I'll give secondly, is hypothetical. So all names are not, they've been changed to protect the innocent. All right. So I'm not singling anybody out. If you happen to see some names in there you recognize, they're not intentional. Does that make you feel better? Because, I mean, to me, I think the whole thing is silly. I think it's absolutely silly. And I want to start off first by asking the moderator to read these quotes that you won't read. And I would really be extremely interested in why you won't read them. I mean, last I saw, and congratulations to you, you know, and nobody's questioning your patriotism, but you were named Veteran of the Year. Now, why you won't read these quotes when they're all made by great patriots, I have to ask, you know, what's going on here, unless you have a feeling that these quotes may reveal something that this RTM is not doing. So if I can take literally 2 minutes and read them, maybe you'll see the point.
No, I already made my ruling on that, Mr. Cook. Continue on with your other presentation.
No, I mean, I want to read these quotes. That's not right.
Absolutely.
Why can't I read these quotes? Why can't I read these quotes?
No, continue with your...
Let's start off with one quote and see if it works, okay? See if it's that offensive to you. First quote is this: Homer, to speak his thoughts is every man's right. Alan being muted. Ray, good luck to you when we go live, Ray. You're going to have a speed dial to the police department. I've already spoke to the police chief about it.
Mr. Cook,
good luck to you, Ray.
Mr. Cook, I granted you time to do your presentation. Let's
all right, I'll do the presentation, but that's not going to last long either. But I'll do the presentation.
Okay. Remember now to do it in a professional manner. Anytime.
I always do it in a professional manner. Okay. If it's unprofessional, you tell me I can't speak. That's when it's unprofessional.
Go ahead. Continue.
What I propose for this community, based upon the things I've seen in the last 12 years, and I'm not alone as a citizen in seeing them, is to open or to organize an Office of Government Accountability and Transparency where citizens can go and get answers to their questions. 1 minute, please. The Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance do not answer citizens' questions. They just don't. They pass them back and forth and go, well, it's not our purview, it's theirs. It's not their purview, it's our, it's a joke. It's like you're playing a big ping pong game and you haven't handled any issues this whole term. We put in 5 citizen petitions to this RTM, 6 citizens letters. All of them were vital issues, were placed in front of the RTM, and each of them was pretty much categorically ignored or sent off to the RTM where it was already ignored by them. I'm not the RTM, the Board of Selectmen. So again, you don't answer citizens' questions. The Office of Government Accountability and Transparency, the way that citizens see it, will employ a full-time staff that's responsive to citizens' concerns and access to independent consultants and professionals with the goal to ensure a fair process and accountability. Provides an ombudsman role. Now, ombudsman is kind of a traditional term, but it would be an independent community information source with investigative capabilities if necessary. You always say investigate anything. So you let everything go. Well, maybe the ombudsman can investigate certain things and give the citizens some satisfaction. The ombudsman, as a historical term, is an official or a staff official charged with investigating citizens' complaints against improper government activity, especially that of public officials. What could the Office of Government Accountability and Transparency have prevented in this town? And what could citizens' concerns could it now address? Well, in the last 20 years, and again, this isn't personal, you don't see anything personal here. In the last 20 years, dishonesty and corruption in Branford government have cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars, including, and again, I'm speaking general, the taking of Tabor, in which the town's actions were called, not by me, but by the Connecticut Supreme Court dishonest and cost taxpayers $20 million in that whole debacle down there. Don't have to mention any names. If you happen to know people, fine. If not, that's fine too. Vindictive taxation and costly lawsuits, I'm sure you remember those. An ombudsman might have stepped in and said, guys, this is not the way we do it. Let's try to make a little more sense of things. I'm sure some of you remember this one. Ombudsman would say, it's really not the way that an RTM member should behave towards the citizen. So let's knock off the behavior and let's try to become more civilized. Corruption, censorship, and civil rights abuses have characterized the past 2 Branford administrations. Again, don't hear me mentioning any names, but they have. Current examples. Well, first and foremost is Costco. And again, I won't mention names, but it's clear that there was something seriously wrong with the Costco process, starting off with, its inland wetlands application and the interference of this group, the Branford Citizens for Responsible Development. Not personal, I'm talking about them as a group. And again, the moderator says, well, Mr. Cook, your problem is you never really present any evidence. Well, how much more evidence do you need than a doctor peer review? I mean, this is a peer review with the inland wetlands directors writing all over it, and she admitted to it to deny Costco. If that's not evidence, I don't know what evidence is. And that evidence is sitting squarely in the federal Supreme Court as we speak. First Selectman said that he was going to investigate the whole thing. Did he? No, we've seen nothing. 5 years later, we've seen nothing. No investigation. And as a matter of fact, the whole thing has been covered up. You want to go down to 146 when the Medland Farm and what went on down there with the removal of the berm and the land trust and the no help whatsoever from any of the public officials? Think an ombudsman might be able to step in and say, something went wrong down here. We should get this together and help Jay out. We should help fix this road because it's a traffic hazard. I don't have to remind Bobby Costanzo, who's been spending the last 3 years on this issue over across from Atlantic Wharf about these issues. What did the town tell us it was going to do? Oh, we're going to hydro seed in December. I see him really mowing those piles down there right now. And again, it's all kinds of debris. It's not just one single type of brick. And we get repeated lies and whatever. The community house, again, not to single somebody out, but the whole thing was based on lies. The project it was, and I can show that over and over again, and I have. I went in front of the Elderly Services Committee. And I said it right to them. The whole thing was based on lies, and they just sat there. Why? Because they basically know it's true. And what did we get for our $13.5 million? You got the pink area. That's what you got. That's the footprint of what we got for $13.5 million. We got the whole firehouse for the same price we got those pink areas for, one of which is an entrance and one of which is some half-baked dining room and office complex. You could have done so much more with that money, but no, they had to have it in the center of town, so that's what they did. And this is the building we got. This is a $13.5 million addition right there. Now, I'm not going to be naive and say nothing else was done to the building, but we could have done a whole lot more by putting up multiple buildings, and we didn't do it. And this poor woman, Mrs. Goff, I went back and forth with her many times at meetings about, the senior center. This was several years ago, and she kept saying, "You didn't tell us the truth. You didn't tell us the truth." And she's right. You didn't. You just ignored her, and then you maligned her and made it seem like she was the one that was telling stories. No, Mrs. Goff was right all along. Don't even get me started. Don't even get us started, I should say, on the Branford Housing Authority and the Parkside Village and the missing $4.5 million down there, because all this money comes in, but nobody knows where it goes. The place looks like a dump, and they're not putting it into any capital improvements, I'll tell you that. And the whole commission, or the whole board, I should say, or authority, has just been corrupt again from the start. Where is the $4.5 million? Well, we'll find out pretty soon, we hope. Again, I'm not going to settle on this one, but the Board of Finance as a whole does lack transparency and accountability. I've been in front of them many times. One reason I asked about the $6.5 million. So I don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. We'll put it under account or under advisement. Same thing with these special funds around town. You got $100 million in special funds. And really, I don't think, if there were 5 members of the RTM that could tell you about these special funds, I think that would be a lot. I think you're closer to probably 3. I think 27 of you or so don't have a clue. And that's just my guess, but I think it's true. And here they are. And they amount to over $100 million. You can see 3 of them, 25 million, 30 million, 20 million, probably a lot more. And nobody knows what they're really doing, where they are, what's going back and forth, and you don't care. And again, the $6.7 million transfer, I'm closing this up pretty soon. We asked for the legal bills to be examined. Are they being examined? No. The only thing you got was, well, they're available if you want to go look at them. Well, that's not the way to do it. I'm sorry, that's just not the way to do it. And again, this is not meant to be personal, but it is a refusal of the Board of Finance in general to answer citizens' questions. And the Crescent Bluff issue, that's still going on. That's still going on. I talked to Mrs. Sajis, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. She said it's still going on. And that's a direct conflict of interest with the town attorney's wife, kind of stirring things up down there. And then his firm comes in to represent the town. That's a mess, this whole eminent domain thing, where you wanted to take this family's lawn on the eminent domain. What, we didn't learn enough from Tabor that you just don't take people's property by eminent domain? Then you got the whole green cult. And, you say, well, don't call them the green cult. Well, when they stopped acting like a cult, we won't call them the green cult. But they don't want anybody to participate. All they care about is their own agenda, their own man-made global warming perspectives. You want to get on the board. They want, ask Representative Stepanek if they'll let him on the board. He's been trying to get on the board for months and months and months. Is somebody drinking like a milkshake? Is someone drinking like a milkshake to be rude, or is that just, the way the RTM does things too? But ask Representative Stepanek if they let him on the board. They have like 12 members, all of them from the green cult, and they don't want one single person on there that objects to the concept of man-made global warming. Do they look familiar? They should. And then why is this all going on? Because it's really part of the first selectman. It's not an attack. It's just, I think it's a fact. He just wants to cater to them because he wants them part of his political allies. So he gives them everything, including now a new animal shelter that's completely solar. Does anyone know it's completely solar? Not until just recently, because they didn't tell anybody. They did it all behind closed doors. Tabor, what a mess that is. 77 acres, $20 million piece of property. And what's the first thing we did to it? We divided it in half with the Shoreline Greenway Trail. Really brilliant architectural move here. Cut a piece of property in half with a $500,000 trail that is going to keep it in half forever. I mean, who was thinking what? You can't move that trail up to the north and go around Chet's Pond to the border of the railroad track. You couldn't do that. You had to cut the property in half. And I was talking earlier about the dump. It's just becoming a dump, and we don't even know what's down there. You know, we got concrete, we got asphalt, we got all these other strange materials. Nobody's made an account. Well, the DEP is going to know about it soon enough. I promise you that. And the thing is, this first selectman has no authority, zero authority to do what he's doing down there. That's the RTM's authority. And you just look at 73-3, there's no question about it. You cannot encumber a 77-acre piece of land with anything. So, well, it belongs to the town, all the things we're doing. Yeah, it belongs to the town, but you're tying it up forever. So some other selectman comes in 10 years from now and say, you know, we can't do anything with Tabor because Cottage Grove, you tied the whole thing up. We got trails, we got, you know, tree farms, we got labyrinths, we got everything. And then we got the whole town plan. Don't get me started on that. That's going on. It's already on local access. You know, I put a presentation on in front of the planning and zoning. I made it very clear with all respect, Mr. Moderator, plenty of evidence. Nobody was going to say, well, Cook doesn't have his facts because the facts are all there. And again, it's you know, you got this biased, you know, energy plan with no public input, all because of the clean, you know, go. And then we have a corrupt backroom plan, which is what I was really speaking about. And that whole thing is right. One green accomplishment that they really had was they got Super Zone. Super Zone let, you know, Exit 53 be anything it wanted to be. And who made sure that it was, you know, sitting in the audience in the back was the first selectman and the Plan of Conservation and Development Director, you know, Phil Carloni. Why? Because they wanted to make sure the planning and zoning pushed this through because 53 was where everybody wanted development. They didn't want it at 56 because, you know, the special little village of Stony Creek just didn't want it out there. They didn't want to wait 10 seconds at a light. So they didn't show up at any Costco hearings. First selectman didn't, but he was sure he showed up at Super Zone. And then we got the whole, forget about this, that's coming up, the whole animal shelter thing, 17 million over budget, green room, back deals, all this. So we can get to that later. And then they steal my corrupt town hall signs, but these signs were fine. And 200 other signs all the way down Route 1 were fine. They were fine, but my town hall corrupt signs, Public Works had an attack on them, they got them down. And then amongst all this, you know what happens? Is we got the propaganda minister for the town hall, none other than Steve Mazzacane of the Branford 7, you know, and again, not to personally attack him, but, you know, this is what he does. He's really the spokesman for town hall. You can see the close relationship he has with the first selectman. Everywhere the first selectman goes, he goes, you know, see him here, see him there, see him there. The problem is he does two things. One, and this is not an attack. He lies about
Mr. Cook, you got 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes.
All right, fine. He lies about people. And then when the people go to defend themselves, he blocks them from defending themselves. And the whole thing about the Zoom censorship, that was a joke, absolute joke. Try doing it next week, right? I mean, next September. Try blocking people next week. I mean, next September. See how well that Zoom button works for you then. Simply working, you know, for, you know, words like dishonest or corrupt, the perfect right of an American citizen to say that. Why does this dishonesty occur? It's because basically the board of, the RTM is checked out. It's apathetic, it's disengaged, it's a broken organization. We have a weak opposition party, we have no investigative press, and no fault of their own, we have a busy and preoccupied citizenry. All right, you can't help them. They got mortgages, they got children, they got families, they got other things. And we lack fairness, accountability, transparency, objectivity, stability, and honesty. Okay, final thing. Two options. One, open up the Office of Government Accountability and Transparency, the Ombudsman Office, see how it works. I think it has a lot of potential. Second option, and you need to research and study the following, change Branford's form of government. Because I tell you right now, folks, I've been watching this my whole life, particularly in the last dozen years, our form of government is completely broken. It's broken. Doesn't work. The RTM doesn't work. The first selectman's office doesn't work. We need to seriously start thinking about changing to a town manager, town council, alternative form of government. It's the best option I think we have because there's no control over the selectman's office. You don't do it. Clear that you don't do it. Citizens can't do it. Press doesn't do it. The sound, they're too busy writing about bake sales and car washes. So selectman's office does whatever they want. Basically, all I have to say, I'll end it there, but I did want to say this, and I mean this sincerely. I don't have a lot more time to spend doing the kind of effort that I personally am doing. I'm getting older. My health is not what it used to be. I had a couple of knocks on the chin in the last, terrible knocks in the last year or so. I can't keep doing this. I just don't have the energy anymore. But I'm going to make a real push to get this office of accountability and transparency open, because I think it'll give citizens a place to go where they can hopefully, for the first time in a long time, get the truth about what's going on in this town.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Mr. Nichols has his hand up.
Who?
Mr. Nichols.
Who's that? Mr. Nichols?
Mr. Nichols, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Nichols, go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, I just have a few questions. How long do I have to talk without being interrupted?
It depends what you have to say.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a parent from this town. I've been in this town pretty much all my life. And I just have to address quite a few issues. My first issue is the fact that, you know, Ray Ingraham is running around with Steve Mazzacane, and it's out there in public that you got to bury a laptop because of porn. Well, what is on that? And why aren't we addressing that right now? That's the first thing. The second is that we're chasing fields that we don't even have to give to our kids. I spoke to Mr. Cosgrove in the last meeting, and go on to the Board of Ed, blah blah blah. The Board of Ed, okay, we're going to put something in down there. It's already been there. But yet I go down to Tabor and I listen to Mr. Mazzacane talk about, it's going to cost millions of dollars to level it. Like, he's speaking out of his whatever, but yet it's level. But yet we're using it as a dump. We're putting literally contaminants into the ground, into the water system. But this RTM doesn't care. Why? I don't understand. There's no infrastructure down there. There's no drainage. There's no nothing. No, there is infrastructure. There is drainage. To put a grass field in, I don't know. Do you have grass around your house? Do you have drainage around your house to put grass in? To put fields in for these kids? I'm so confused that I can't stand the lying anymore. It's unbelievable. And to be honest with you, it's so disgraceful to these kids that they can't get $1 from you guys. $1 to put the fields in down there. Why? What are you so against? Put it in. No, but we can bring catch basins down there. We can bring metal down there. We can bring concrete down there that has silicates in it that blows in the air. See, I used to be a concrete guy. I know a little bit about it. And you guys should all be ashamed. And on top of it, the road millings have to be topped. If not, you don't know if there was antifreeze on them. You don't know if there was car oil on them. You don't know what's seeping into that ground right now. When's the last time you checked into the monitoring of the well meters? You guys should all be ashamed of yourselves that you don't stand behind these kids. And it's sickening to me personally. And then the porn and everything else. I mean, come on. What is wrong with you people? I'm done with that. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Petrosky.
No further.
Mr.
Petrosky.
Yeah, there's just a couple issues I wanted to go through, and one was on Tabor property, but Mr. Cook and Mr. Nichols did a good job of that. You know, there was supposed to be from a petition by a resident of Bark Road, an ad hoc committee set up. And I know Representative Everson mentioned something about it, and it kind of just got put off by the first selectman, who stated he would do that. And he said he didn't want to spend any town money, which I think is fine, and I agree with that. But what's the harm in putting together 10 or 12 people to discuss what could go on down there? I mean, if you think about it, look how this green energy ad hoc got put together, who's running the town now. I mean, if you get some representatives from the 5th and the 7th, I believe it borders both of them, maybe some people in between, I don't think that would be a bad idea. So I don't know why it got sloughed off and put to the side. That's number one. Number two, I just wanted to address the Parkside issue real fast for you guys who had a petition in front of you who didn't want anything to do with it. And real estate, I believe, is in your purview. And if and when this project does go through, we just lost town property to it. We lost a parking lot for the Little League parking. And I'm just curious to how you guys are going to handle all those phone calls from the angry parents that can't drop their kids off. And like I said, real estate is in your purview. And this was an item that just got pushed off. And I give Representative Wells at least some kind of credit, who said, at least let's put it to the first selectman. It is his job to do it, or excuse me, the board of selectmen. And we really didn't get an answer there. I mean, I will give the first selectman credit. He did try to get, he had a meeting with some of the housing authority members, and it was just a waste because none of his questions got answered. But anyway, I just want to let you guys know that that's most likely what's going to happen is our town property got seized for a parking zone. And you could go back to planning and zoning and look at Sean Heffernan for that, who gave that speech about the safety zone. And the third thing I do want to address is probably the big pink elephant in the room that Mr. Nichols kind of touched on. And it's kind of disturbing that we have an individual that goes on the air and bashes RTM members if they happen to agree with Mr. Cook or myself. It's mostly Democratic members. I'm not going to say any names, but they get called names because they happen to agree that maybe there is pollution from Atlantic Wharf, or maybe there is a problem with the Tabor property. And I think maybe that's what's stopping some RTM members from speaking out, is they're afraid of public embarrassment by a certain individual who, again, pals around with the majority leader. And I actually saw him at lunch together giggling after the incident that happened with a representative from the 6th district. And, you know, you could tell he directly speaks from the first selectman's office. I mean, every time he goes on the air, it's like verbal intercourse for Mr. Cosgrove. Can't say enough good things about him, that he's doing a great job, but yet we have all these problems in town. So, and when you do address the situation, or you try to say something, once again, it's like North Korea, you get blocked. Me personally, I've been threatened by that individual with the police because I said, come talk to me in person. Oh, I'm going to call the cops, you're threatening me. I mean, that's the kind of individual that our town officials hang around with. And it's not a good look, but that's up to them who they want to hang out with. And, you know, there's a lot of other issues. The animal shelter is another one. And the thing about that is that was a blatant lie from what they said with the cat house. And I have the articles, and when it comes up, we'll discuss it then. But I just hope you guys do the right thing for a change and really look into some of these issues and some of these individuals that sit, not only your fellow RTM members and who committed ultimately arrestable crimes, as long as other people on certain boards in town. And I think you should take an interest in that. Think about that over the summer. And, you know, because election time is coming. And I got to be honest with you, you know, things are probably going to change. And that's that. And, you know, have a good summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. Anybody else for other business? If not, item 14 is an adjournment. Do I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Representative Ingraham, I'll make that motion.
I second the motion. Representative Stemmer seconds the motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good
night, John.
Good night, everybody.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.